Given the time, I'll focus on two of the global trends that have been given to us, demography and sustainability. And in doing so, what I'd like to do is just make parallels and contrasts with other Asian countries in two groups. The first would be Japan, Korea, China, and Thailand, and the other would be the other four countries in Asia, including India, which is Vietnam, India, Indonesia, and the Philippines. And I think we have much to learn from these contrasts. Before going into the detail of what I want to say, I just want to say that I think this initiative is potentially very valuable because there's something special about firms in India. There's something special about the corporate sector in India. One is, of course, that there is this corporate social responsibility, and it's been formalized now. But one thing that stands out to me over my many years here and abroad is its sort of unique commitment among business leaders to do something for society at large rather than just look at the bottom line in terms of profits. And I think coming together, we have to think about how we can exploit that better. So in terms of demography, some things in these two groups of countries have been very much the same. So what has happened is that we've gone from high fertility rates to low fertility rates. And all over Asia now, we're pretty much at replacement fertility. As the Honorable Finance Minister said, India is a big country and there's a lot of heterogeneity. But if we look at the aggregate, we're at a fertility rate of roughly 2. And this is true all over the place. If we look at life expectancy has been rising. It's risen very fast in China, in Japan very, very fast, in Korea very fast, China a little bit less so, India again less so. And so what this has meant is that the Indian population is among the youngest in the world right now, but it's very temporary. We would like life expectancy to rise, and as life expectancy rises, we're going to think not of a demographic dividend, but of what Japan now calls the silver demographic dividend. So what we have to do is not only make the young population today more productive, we have to think about ways in which the older population can be productive. And so that's one big thing that is facing us over the next few decades. So in Japan, for example, the dependency ratio has gone from 10% in 1960, and it's projected to be 80% in 2050. So this is a big change. It's there. It's going to happen. And we want it to happen because we want people to live healthier. We want them to live longer, but then we have to accommodate that. We have to make sure we produce enough. And so how do we do that? So, well, if we're talking about the younger population being more productive, we have to think about the educational system. And this is where I think the public-private partnerships really matter. We have to think about ways in which private initiatives can come together with public universities. And there's a remarkable amount of investment in this actually in foreign universities. So many Indian industrialists have supported chairs, have supported centers abroad. We haven't had that engagement happening in India. And I think part of it is a very controlled, regulated public system. So I think we have to think about how we can get flexibility into that system. How else do we get the young productive? We get more women into the labor force. Labor force participation rates in India are 27% for women, among the lowest in the world. So how can we get more women coming in? Given the norms that we operate under, they're not going to travel very far away. There's a certain amount of division in the household. They're joint families. How are we going to do this? And I think that's where corporate India has to partner with academics and think tanks and think about how to make that happen. So if I think about the silver dividend, we've done a lot in making insurance available. Government policies recently have expanded health insurance. What we haven't focused on is preventive care, which is much, much cheaper than hospitalization or medical care once you get sick. So I think we need to figure out ways in which we can do that. Again, I think what the Honorable Finance Minister was saying is partner with public institutions in small places rather than just in big centers. Finally, on sustainability, there's been a lot of talk about being vocal for local. And I think we need to think about how we can make the local more vocal. So not to think about distributive justice in terms of things going out to people who need them, but really about thinking of local communities as being a little more self-sufficient. So, for example, my pet peeve is with the public distribution system, which is a very important safety net. What we have is we have grain coming into the center and then grain going out to villages. If we had ways in which families who need food and lentils and other things can procure locally and be subsidized by the government rather than have this massive flow of goods, we would not only save on transport, we would get better quality food because people are buying locally, they're more accountable. Okay? So let's think about communities being more resilient and more self-sustaining, which is not to say that they don't benefit from technology that's available outside or economies of scale. But let's think about that a little bit and think about dividing what can be done locally and what's best done in centers. And there are a number of NGOs. You know, the other thing that stands out in India is just the energy of local NGOs in bringing people together. But they need the corporate houses to come in and help them. They need to help them market. They need to help them mechanize. There's a whole set of functions where I think corporate India can come together with village India. And the trick to sustainability really lies in that. Once we do that, I think the macro picture of what's happening with floods and climate and everything else lies in really those micro relations. So let's think more about how to get that going, and I'm happy to talk more during these 2 days to any of you who have ideas on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.